What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman. This is one of the most unique video essays I'm ever going to do here at the channel because while I was writing this over the last 3 or 4 days after I had seen Spider-Man Far From Home for the second time, the director actually came out and addressed this directly. Now, what he said doesn't necessarily not coincide with the argument that I'm building, but there have been a ton of videos now at this point trying to claim that, well, Nick Fury's been a Skrull a lot longer than we think, and so I went to try to get to the bottom of this, trace it back to the natural origin. Just when would Nick Fury have become Talos or a different Skrull? And guys, it's a lot earlier than you or I could have ever imagined, way earlier in the second phase. I'm going to break down just when Nick Fury became a Skrull and all of the Easter eggs that Marvel Studios has set. Yeah, I know exactly what the Spider-Man Far From Home director said, but Marvel Studios has laid the groundwork to not only prove that Nick Fury's been a Skrull for a long time, but also to tell us exactly what happened with Nick Fury and now how we're getting the original one back on the scene going into the fourth phase. We're going to break it all down, but first, if you could grab the subscribe button, we're giving away 2 PlayStation 4 Pros, as well as a whole slew of other Marvel-related stuff. All you have to do, hit the subscribe button, then hit the notification bell, leave a like and a comment on this video, and if you want, stick around to the end of the video. I'll get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Now, of course, having all finished Spider-Man Far From Home and thusly the Infinity Saga, we find out during the post-credit scenes that Talos and his wife have actually been posing as Nick Fury and Maria Hill for the entirety of the film, sparking the immediate question, just how long have they been posing as Nick Fury and Maria Hill? And it turns out if you start pulling on that thread, it actually pulls a long way. Now, like I said, during the middle of me doing this initial video, the director for Spider-Man Far From Home came out and said something along the lines of Nick Fury just needed a vacation after being snapped. But number one, I'm not sure the writer and director of Spider-Man Far From Home has the authority to say that. Number two, Marvel Studios does its own thing and writes its own lore, retcons things exactly when they want. Oh, and we're going to get to that because that's exactly what they did during Captain Marvel. But the director for Spider-Man Far From Home is not the authority on exactly what's been going on through the MCU narrative, so much so that there's a ton of evidence that shows that this doesn't make sense. And as much as I hate to use it as an example, both the writers Marcus and McFeely and the directors, the Russo brothers, for Infinity War and Avengers Endgame couldn't even get on the same page post-Endgame. Obviously, they were asked a ton of questions, a ton of detailed questions, and hadn't gotten on the same page with the answers, and in some cases giving very conflicting opinions on very important details. Either way, things only become true as they go forward, and Marvel Studios has left themselves a ton of outs. I also don't think the Spider-Man director would have been privy to everything that happened in Phase 2, so I'm going to go ahead before we even start and give you all the pieces of evidence we're going to break down at once. My argument is pretty clear. Nick Fury actually died during Winter Soldier, and then they used a Skrull due to a protocol, whether it was Talos or someone else, to be him when they needed right up until real recently, and yes, they brought Nick Fury back to life. The evidence that we've got is A, 2 specific things that happened during Age of Ultron. We're going to go over the dialogue and the action. It's both something that Nick Fury said and then something that Nick Fury did that was retconned in Captain Marvel. B, the Captain Marvel post-credit scenes, not only when Captain Marvel lands and asks Nat, "Where's Fury?" but then also those blue test tubes as well. And then C, Spider-Man Far From Home's post-credit scene. Yeah, it's revealed that he was a Skrull during that movie, but man, there is one huge Easter egg right in front of everybody, including Nick Fury, that implicates something far different. We're going to break all this down. Let's start with Age of Ultron. Now, Nick Fury shows up when the whole team needs him and Tony needs a pep talk. Basically, he's seen this vision that the whole team is going to die and has to talk to Nick Fury about it when he shows up to give them the impetus they need to go ahead and take Ultron head on. Remember, he's in hiding from Winter Soldier where he quote-unquote faked his own death, or I would argue actually died. He says, "Here we are back on Earth. Here we are back on Earth." Now, this may be because Nick Fury had traveled to space to set up the sword base that we've now seen, or it may be because he's back on Earth, that is Talos, who hasn't been on Earth for a while and his words betray him. Either way, all the way back then and completely out of context of the rest of the Infinity Saga and of course Captain Marvel's introduction of the Skrulls, we wouldn't have known what to look for and hence would have missed this line completely. But what people didn't miss was the notorious toast scene. Now, this was noticed way back after Captain Marvel, and even the Spider-Man director tried to explain this was wrong because technically this isn't toast, he said, but during Captain Marvel, Nick Fury said he can't eat bread, or rather toast, that's been cut diagonally but during Age of Ultron did just that. Now, do you think that they chose to write that in Captain Marvel just out of coincidence? Do you think the writers chose that line out of every line, out of any line they could have talked about as a signifier? No, they did that on purpose, not only to cast doubt, but because Marvel Studios is building up to this reveal that Nick Fury has been dead and actually resurrected, but there's way more proof than just the toast scene and what he said during Age of Ultron. Now, I'm sure a lot of you will remember these blue test tubes were completely out of context in the middle of the Captain Marvel post-credit scene. There was also some really weird things going on about it. Number one, that's the pager that's in the middle of all of these test tubes. Number two, Captain Marvel shows up to ask, "Where's Fury?" And then we get no answer. Now, it was assumed we would actually see that as part of Avengers Endgame footage, but we didn't. This was actually left completely ambiguous, but that's also why Captain Marvel didn't need to meet the Avengers again or introduce herself. She basically got to the base, that interaction happened, she then flew out and found Tony, because obviously Pepper and the rest of them would have said, hey, he's still lost somewhere out there if he's alive. She comes back, they don't need a reintroduction. But let's go back to these blue test tubes. Now, when I did a video on this, it's still posted to my channel. It's the blue test tubes explained in the Captain Marvel post-credit scene. I pointed to them and said, hey, these are the exact test tubes that showed up during the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you guys remember, Coulson died, obviously, during Avengers 1, but they brought him back to life on the TV show, something called the Tahiti experiment, where they used blue Kree blood, as seen here, that was also featured during the Captain Marvel movie, and infused him with it to bring him back to life. Now, this same procedure could have been used on Nick Fury, and it would make a lot of sense why they'd have these here to give us a slight Easter egg as to what was going on. Of course, something like the snap would be enough reason to have to bring Nick Fury back, and that would also make good sense as to why they didn't bother explaining anything past "Where's Fury?" They would have to explain that he was dead and they were trying to resurrect him given the snap has happened and they now need his help again. And if you think about it, there's actually a ton more evidence for why Nick Fury died in Winter Soldier than this. We don't need to extrapolate it during this video, but it can be summed up with one easy overarching, hey, where was Nick Fury for the rest of the Infinity Saga, when the Sokovia Accords were going down, when there was a major rift in the Avengers, when Captain America took off to do the secret Avengers on the side leading into Infinity War, when the snap actually happened, and afterwards, where was Nick Fury? He wasn't there for any of it, even though he had been central for all of it leading up until now. But if that's not enough, if all of this as an argument isn't enough to convince you, well then there's one more Easter egg, like I said, in the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, something that nobody is mentioning but was right in front of everybody's faces, including Nick Fury. See this right here? He's not just on vacation, guys. He's on vacation in Tahiti. Now look, I know it's a lot to consider that Nick Fury has been dead this entire time, but it also makes a lot of sense, and the Easter eggs are all here. I know what the director for Spider-Man Far From Home said, but like I said, he's definitely not the authority on what the MCU and Kevin Feige plan to do going forward, and this is something now that they have spent a lot of time setting up. You don't randomly just say something like, I can't eat toast or bread or a sandwich that's been cut diagonally just because years after the fact that you've had someone do that on screen. That is absolute retconning and for sure foreshadowing that we lost Nick Fury during Winter Soldier, and they only just now brought him back given the implications of Captain Marvel, what happened with the pager, what happened with those blue test tubes, and of course this Tahiti Easter egg hidden in the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Are you compelled? Do you believe this argument? Are you still holding out that he didn't die and he just needed a vacation? Do you feel me that the Spider-Man Far From Home director would not be the authority on this if Marcus and McFeely and the Russos couldn't even get on the same page? And quickly, let's get into the giveaway stuff before I let you go. All right, we're still giving away 2 PlayStation 4 Pros, the next of which is at the 500,000 subscriber mark. All you have to do, again, subscribe, notification bell, make sure to like and comment on every video, as the more videos you like and comment on, the better chance you have of winning. We're also giving away another PlayStation 4 Pro over on my Spotify account, Allfires. If you have a Spotify account, great. If you don't, it's free to make one. All you need is an email. Just follow the link down in the description and the comments below. Follow my account, Allfires, then stream the song and screenshot that, then send that screenshot to everythingalwaysYT@gmail.com. Far fewer people are going to do this than sub here at the channel. If you want to jump through some extra hoops, it'll greatly boost your odds of winning a PlayStation. If you want to win the PlayStation Pro here at the channel or any of the other prizes we're going to be announcing through the summer and the rest of the year, it's super simple. All the same rules apply. Hit the sub button, then the notification bell. Make sure to like and comment on the video, and the more videos that you like and comment on, the better chance you have of winning. My name's Michael Roman. This is Everything Always. Guys, thanks a lot for checking out the channel. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon, especially with the upcoming San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel's 4th slate release, and of course the plot leaks for Black Widow. Thanks for checking out the channel, guys. My name's Michael Roman. This is Everything Always. See you guys again real soon.